Welcome everyone to this week's video. Today we are on Herp Monday number 21 and we have a good one. If you're from the European region, this is one of the most common amphibians, or at least a certain type, common of this type of amphibian, especially if you're in the United Kingdom, North or Central Europe. Today we are going to be talking about the northern crested newt. Northern crested newt, scientific name Triturus cristatus, or cristatus. Once again, that's Triturus cristatus. It is also known as the great crested newt, or even just simply as the warty newt. As you can see, it does have kind of a warty skin. It is part of the family Salamandridae, which is the family of true salamanders. That's actually like how you can get a good example of their rough skin. All of the species in Salamandridae, or most of them, are going to have this very rough skin, and they do not have any sort of costal grooves, which are grooves that are on the side of a lot of different salamanders. And the reason why their skin is rough is that most of the time, all those warts or anything are actually poison glands. These are those salamanders that usually have a ton of color to them, very vibrant colors. It's them saying, do not eat me, I'll make you sick. And that goes into that aposematic coloring that we've talked about a couple of times. That's those very bright colors saying, don't eat me, I'll make you sick. So as I alluded to, this newt is found in Great Britain, northern and central continental Europe, and even goes as far west as parts of western Siberia. So it can really get out there. Obviously, this is very well adapted to the cold, but it spends most of the year actually in the forested areas and lowlands. Most of the time when people think of newts or salamanders, they think they're in the water in these real sluggish streams, especially if you're in America. But these are actually up in the forests, not too far from water, but they're usually up in the forests, relatively close to water, hiding in the leaves, decaying logs, things like that. And now, even though they spend most of their time up there, a lot of times they are actually doing some sort of hibernation, sleeping during the cold months. That's not saying that they stay continually asleep. If the weather warms up during the winter months, they will go out and forage for more food. Then once the spring thaw happens, they move to these larger fish-free ponds in spring. So they have a lot of vegetation in these ponds as well. So just think of like ditches and canals that fish don't get to because they dry up, but when the rainy season comes, they fill up with water and just a bunch of frogs and everything are in it. Now, this is actually a pretty large newt. It's the largest newt in the United Kingdom. The females get up to about 16 centimeters, which is about 6.5 inches long, just under that. Whereas males are usually only about 13.5 centimeters, so about 5.5 inches long. Rarely, there have been individuals that have been recorded at 20 centimeters, which is basically 8 inches long. Those have been recorded, but that is, super Mac Daddy large size, crazy big. And those are definitely going to be females, obviously. So as you can see on this, the back and the sides are this really dark brown, and they've got these sort of black spots going along the sides. Oops. Oh, that's fine right here. So you can see those dark blotches right there. You can see them here as well. Whereas the female is going to have a yellow line that runs along the lower tail edge. You can't really see it on this picture. It's kind of hard to find female pictures of this. But a female is going to have a yellow line there. And the belly is going to have this yellow or orange coloring with very dark blotches. Whereas the throat, you can kind of tell in this picture, the throat is also going to have that kind of yellow, orangish color, but they're going to have some of that white stippling, which are these little kind of white freckles right here, and they'll have a little bit going down the side as well. We've already talked about the rough skin, so yeah, that's kind of how you can tell it. And I know everyone's thinking, what about the crest? What about the crest, Pinion? Well, we're going to get to that. Don't worry about it. Now, these are voracious eaters. These eat a lot of things. They're very active predators. When they are on land, they're going to eat mainly insects, or apparently they're very, very predatory towards snails and slugs. Apparently they really like those snails and slugs. When they're in water, they're going to eat tadpoles and small mollusks. But apparently they are always active. Well, let me rephrase that. Nocturnal. These are a nocturnal species, so at night they are out, they are looking to feed. Now, kind of the interesting fact that we talk about, by the way, this is another example of what a female would look like. You can kind of see the yellow line right here on the underside, but you can see the female is not going to have that crest. It's going to have some more white stippling, and it's not going to be quite as vibrant. Now, the interesting fact is basically their breeding, their reproductive strategy. So as you can see, the males develop a very conspicuous jagged crest on their back. You know, this real jagged crest going down their back. It also goes down their tail, but the tail isn't going to have that jagged edge to it. And it's also important to note that while it does run along the back and the tail, there's a very big interruption at this tail base right here. So you can see it's going down, then all of a sudden just stops for a bit and then starts back up on the tail. That crest can get up to about 1.5 centimeters, so about half an inch, a little over half an inch in height. It's pretty significant when you talk about a 5-inch newt having about half an inch of crest above it. So yeah, it's got this heavily indentation. Females are not going to develop this. This is strictly a male thing. Then when they are breeding, the males will actually have a ritualized display, meaning they're going to be in their water. And what's kind of interesting with these is these actually gather in what are called leks, which are courtship areas. Leks are very common in birds, especially ground birds, with think like the lesser prairie chicken, things like that. Communal breeding spots for the males to be put on display. Well, these kind of have that same general strategy. The males are in their little courtship area and they are almost dancing. They're doing very specific body movements, and then they wave the pheromones at the females with their tails. And then if the female is receptive, the male will deposit a spermatophore, which is basically a little ball of sperm, and then will go over there and guide the female over that spermatophore. And then that female will pick up that spermatophore with her cloaca, which will then fertilize the eggs internally. That's actually relatively common in this family of salamanders. A lot of salamanders have internal fertilization. Then the female will actually lay around 200 eggs in one breeding season. And how she does it, she'll actually lay an egg and then folds them into an aquatic plant. So basically she'll lay it and then she'll fold that plant over that egg. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it. It can take her about 5 minutes to lay one egg. So think about it, that's 1,000 minutes that she's just laying eggs. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Definitely one of those interesting facts that I think people would be interested in. Now, these are available in the pet trade. More often than not, if you find them in the pet trade, they're just called Triturus species, just crested newts. And they are very similar looking, so I'm not going to say that this is a very specific one. You can probably find a good breeder to find a very specific northern crested newt for your aquarium if you so choose. And they're not that hard to take care of. They're not even that expensive. I found a couple of sites that had them, Triturus species, for around $25. So definitely not breaking the bank. Probably a very interesting tank mate. Just be aware that these are not going to have this super vibrant color, and they're not going to have that jagged crest the entire time. If you do that. And that's even if you have a male. If you get a female, you're just going to have this sort of thing right here, although it's still a pretty cool looking salamander. But anyway, thank you guys so much again. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you again. If I don't, please be safe. Have a great day. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. If you do, I'd really appreciate it. I hope you've been enjoying the series. I know I have. I am looking forward to continuing bringing you interesting amphibians and reptiles, and hopefully you're also keeping up with our Fish Friday segment, which has been going on even longer. But thank you guys so much again. Take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and peace.